Manny Pacquiao was never really about size. That was just the surface-level excuse people used when they doubted him. The real story was always about belief. About whether a man could walk into a ring built for giants and refuse to accept the role he was given. Every time Manny Pacquiao stepped between the ropes, he carried more than gloves and hand wraps. He carried the weight of other people's certainty that he did not belong there. They looked at him and saw a small frame in a sport obsessed with reach, muscle, and intimidation. They saw short arms, narrow shoulders, and a body that did not match the monsters standing across from him. And every time they reached the same conclusion. Size decides destiny. They were wrong. Manny Pacquiao never fought like a man trying to survive. He fought like a man trying to take something that did not belong to him. His speed was not just quick. It was violent. It arrived without warning and disappeared before opponents could react. His movement was not graceful for the sake of beauty. It was chaotic, sharp, and disorienting. He did not stand still long enough to be measured. He did not wait for permission to attack. He stepped into danger, turned angles into weapons, and made bigger men feel old, slow, and confused before they even realized the fight had slipped away from them. Inside Manny's world, height and muscle meant nothing without timing, nerve, and the willingness to suffer. Keith Thurman learned that lesson the hard way. Thurman entered the fight with Manny as the bigger man in every visible way. Taller, broader, louder. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who believed the story was already written. He called Manny old. He joked about his size. He talked about sending him into retirement. On fight night, the difference looked almost unfair. Thurman's arms hung longer. His shoulders were heavier. His presence filled the ring. Manny looked like the smaller man everyone said he was. But when the bell rang, none of that mattered. Manny exploded forward with speed Thurman could not process. In the very first round, he cracked Thurman clean and dropped him. The giant fell not because he was weak, but because he was unprepared for a man who refused to fight like he was small. By the end of the night, Manny Pacquiao stood as the oldest welterweight champion in history, while Thurman stood as another reminder that arrogance collapses quickly when it collides with precision. Joshua Clotty was built like a fortress. Thick arms, heavy chest, a body that looked carved from stone. On paper, he was everything Pacquiao was not. Bigger, stronger, harder to hurt. Many believed Manny would bounce off him, that the size difference would finally matter. But Pacquiao never tried to overpower Clotty. He dismantled him with thought and movement. He circled him. He darted in and out. He struck from angles Clotty could not anticipate or block. Round after round, Manny turned the ring into his classroom and Clotty into his unwilling student. By the final bell, the giant was still standing, but he had been broken in a quieter way. He had been outclassed, outpaced, outsmarted. Muscle had not failed him. Strategy had. Erik Morales once handed Manny one of the most important lessons of his career. In their first fight, Morales used his reach, timing, and experience to control the action and defeat Pacquiao. Many took that loss as proof. Proof that Manny had finally run into someone too big, too smart, too complete to solve. But Manny did not run from that defeat. He did not make excuses. He studied it. He rebuilt himself around it. When they met again, Manny was faster, sharper, and more relentless. He overwhelmed Morales and stopped him. By the time they fought a third time, the evolution was undeniable. Manny crushed him in just a few rounds. What began as a loss turned into a statement. The small man did not disappear when he failed. He transformed. Jorge Solis believed height would save him. He believed distance would protect him. He stood tall and trusted his reach to keep danger away. Manny walked through that distance like it was nothing. He hunted Solis, closed the gap, and broke him down piece by piece. When Solis finally fell, it was not just a knockdown. It was the collapse of belief. Size had given him confidence. Manny stripped it away punch by punch. Chris Algieri entered undefeated, taller, and full of optimism. He talked about opportunity. He talked about destiny. But destiny had other plans. Manny dropped him once. Then again. And again. 6 times Algieri hit the canvas. 6 times he tried to rise. And every time, Manny reminded him that height does not stop timing, and reach does not stop speed. Oscar de la Hoya was supposed to be untouchable. Too big. Too strong. Too experienced. Manny moved up in weight to face him, and most people believed it was a mistake bordering on reckless. But from the opening round, de la Hoya could not keep up. Manny's hands were everywhere. His feet never stopped. Punches piled up until Oscar's face told a story words never could. By the 8th round, de la Hoya told his corner he was done. Not because he was weak, but because he had been dismantled by someone he was never supposed to lose to. Antonio Margarito may have been the ultimate test. Taller, heavier, longer arms. A pressure fighter known for durability and intimidation. Margarito tried to impose his size, to bully Manny and wear him down. Manny answered with speed and surgical accuracy. Punch after punch carved into Margarito's face. His eyes swelled grotesquely, nearly sealing shut. Manny could have finished him early. Instead, he chose dominance. 12 rounds of punishment turned a giant into a wounded man struggling to see. When it was over, Margarito had lost more than a fight. He had lost the illusion that size alone could protect him. Ricky Hatton came forward like a freight train. He believed pressure would overwhelm Manny. Manny waited. He watched. And when the opening appeared, he fired a left hook that erased everything. Hatton crashed to the canvas. He rose, unsteady. And then Manny sent him back down with a punch that ended the night and entered boxing history. It took seconds to prove a truth fighters learn too late. Speed beats force when force cannot see what is coming. What made Manny Pacquiao different was never just talent. It was defiance. He refused to accept the script written for him. He refused to fight like a small man. He fought like a storm. Every giant who stood across from him learned the same lesson. Size is only an advantage if you know how to use it. Power only matters if you can land it. Confidence only works if it is built on reality. Manny did not shrink in the presence of giants. He grew. He turned their weight into slow reactions. He turned their reach into missed punches. He turned their confidence into fatal mistakes. Again and again, the pattern repeated. They laughed at his arms. They laughed at his height. And then they stopped. Laughing. His legacy is not just belts and titles. It is the idea that limits are negotiable, that the body does not decide the heart, that speed, intelligence, and courage can rewrite expectation. Manny Pacquiao did not destroy giants by accident. He destroyed them because he refused to believe the rules that said he could not. He walked into rings where he was not supposed to win. He fought men he was not supposed to beat. And he left behind broken predictions and fallen giants. Not because he was the biggest, but because he was the bravest. Now his story belongs to history, but the lesson remains. Never measure a fighter by his height. Never measure a dream by its size. Because sometimes, the smallest man in the room carries the biggest storm inside him. So which fight do you think best shows Manny Pacquiao destroying a giant? Was it Thurman, de la Hoya, Hatton, or Margarito? Do you believe speed will always beat size, or does raw power still rule boxing? Drop your thoughts below, share this with anyone who loves fight stories, and if you want more dramatic breakdowns like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and stay locked in. Legends are not born from size. They are born from fire.